Okay, well, so hi and welcome back to yet another episode of Faith Brynels Insights. I'm Faith Brynel and welcome back to season 6 and episode 3. Hi, Zoe Bennett. Welcome to the Faith Brynels Insights podcast. How are you today, Zoe?
Absolutely amazing.
Wonderful. Now that's it. Wonderful. Now that's the energy we need this morning. Kicking off a Friday morning, Zoe. Welcome to the Faith Brynels Insights podcast. So please, before we start the episode today, please introduce yourself to the listeners.
So my name is Zoe Bennett, and BEM, and received the King Honours this year for inspiring disadvantaged individuals. So apparently people say that I inspire confidence and create transformation in others.
Wonderful.
And for me, I'm all about empowering and being that shining light by showing up, by setting examples, and not just saying to do something, but showing people how to do it. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Zoe, for that context, that wonderful context about what you do and having a BEM. Congratulations to you there, because clearly your work has inspired many. And as you mentioned, a very key point there, that that your words are actually met with your actions, that you actually do, you do enact the things that you say. Because sometimes people say things, but then their actions are vividly different. So thank you for talking about that as well. So let's get stuck into it then. I want to really kick off with my first question about your journey, really, to being from being an inspirational speaker to founding the Multicultural Business and Community Champion Awards, also known as the MBCCA. Yes, excellent. I thought you were going to come in there. The MBCC. What inspired you to create this platform, and what impact do you think it has on on the multicultural entrepreneurship, and the community empowerment as a whole?
Okay, so it's really important to state that I actually had a limited company, a training company, before creating any of this. And that's about just helping people to upskill, whether it's moving to into work through employability, or whether it's entrepreneurship. So I deliver entrepreneurship programs, of which I have a partnership deal with NatWest Bank, and I deliver on that. And for me, it's very important to give people the tools that they can do better and be better. And it's about making sure that quality exceeds over quantity. So how we started the training company was more about customer service, how to deliver that with excellence. So that makes sense when you hear about, well, how did the awards do so well? Because my background is customer service.
The context is
as
good.
well as sales and marketing. So I actually have a master's degree in tourism management. And that master's is all about again, the moment of truth. How you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and dealing with customers and engagement and relationships. So when we talk about how the MBCC is a success now, it had to start with something. There was a foundation. Now, the reason on which it was started is because I had a need to say thank you to an MP and to a police officer who was my family liaison officer after the brutal murder of my father, who was tortured to death. And I was receiving serious death threats. Thank you. I was receiving very serious death threats, and there was a lot going on besides. And I was fighting two court cases at the same time, one to catch the murderers and bring that to justice. And then also I had an employment tribunal, took the government of Jamaica to court, and I won on all counts, and they ended up to pay me out. You can Google me. You'll see, if you put either Zoe Bennett Motivational Queen or Zoe Bennett Jamaica, you'll see all the articles.
Oh yes, I just read that.
And so on, and on ITV News, and it was a big time of distress, in resilience, and so as a result of all of that. So bearing in mind, I'd worked with people and I'd done events with Usain Bolt and Maxi Priest and John Barnes for years and years before. So now when you understand the MBCCs, you'll understand that
that's the context,
I'm not adverse to celebrities. It just was my world I came from anyway. And also that the awards was purely created by me, started by me solely. Say thank you to my unsung heroes that actually helped me. So now I realized as I'm creating this, so I was using all my connections. So this is networking is very important, hence why I wrote the book Networking Personified, so people can understand how to engage effectively, how to negotiate effectively, how to do next steps with people. Now, within that negotiation, I had to pretty much do the MBCCs in the first year on £3,500. Now, the MBCCs, it was filmed in the first year by local TV. We had the red. So everything you see now, we had that from the beginning. It's just literally just multiplied now, you know. We had interviews on the red carpet. We had the backdrop. We created an MBCC stage in full set, so people could be
it looks very impressive though. I must say it looks very impressive, and just want to piggyback on what you're saying there, that clearly you can see your passion and your drive for justice and equality as well. As you said, you want to recognize and celebrate these unsung heroes. And actually in my research of you, I was going to actually ask you what was the kind of reason behind, you know, the phrase of the motivational queen, but now I've kind of now you've answered my question when you set the content of the MBCC. So amazing though, you're really inspirational. But I just want to ask you a question actually about your father's death, if you're happy to just briefly talk about that. I'm not sure. Okay, thank you.
No, absolutely.
Okay, I just want to check with that before you. I'm not sure if it's very, obviously it's a very hard thing to go through, but I just wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to other people who are going to who have either gone through and kind of dealing with the after effects of this kind of situation, or who are going through similar experiences at the moment?
You know, I always say, just take a moment. So my dad would always say lots of different sayings. And the sayings, on recollecting the sayings that he told me, actually has got through this really tumultuous time of really challenging adversity. And it was, take the emotion out and put the passion in.
Wow.
The moment that you take the emotional element of woe is me, why me, you know, and turn that around and say, well, why not me? This thing has happened for a reason. It's a catalyst for some particular reason. It's about being reflective. It's about saying, well, things are not happening to me, but they're happening for me.
So change the narrative.
Right, when you change the narrative, you change the language you're talking to yourself, it changes how that you show up and how you actually don't lead in an emotional state. And if you lead in an emotional state, you're only going to get emotional state outcomes. So that's what I had to do, because if I did just crumble, who'd be fighting for justice? Who then, you know, would be looking to set a precedence, a benchmark for other people to say, well, if she could do it, so
I can do it too. Wonderful.
Absolutely. People need to see representation, as you know, know, and that's about.
Well, you truly are a motivational queen, Zoe. So thank you very much for just talking about that question. I know you never had that question before time, but you've done really well to answer that question this morning. So thank you very much. And I just want to go back to an earlier point that you talked about the real importance of networking. How important was networking, do you think, in terms of your career? And in thinking about other people, let's say in thinking about students right now who are thinking about their future careers, or people who are career changers, how important is networking in terms of really kind of gaining that work experience in their chosen career field?
It's vital. 100% vital. And let me tell you something. I was networking as a kid without realizing I was networking. And I was observing networking without realizing. So my father started the first ever West Indian Sports and Social Club in Preston, Lancashire, in my grandma's living room. And if he would always do things to help the community. And if he didn't know and something, he'd always know a man that knew. So I've always grown around that, and I've always understand that. However, so I wrote the book Networking Personified, and people always say, well, why have you not written your autobiography? And I keep telling them, you've got to understand, there is not just a person, it's not just you, and it's just you to write about. You've got to write about the process that got you to where you got to. And people, without people intersecting, hence the MPs and the police intersecting and me having that relationship for them to help me, I wouldn't be moved on to where I am, to where I've created the MBCC Awards. It just wouldn't be the thing, or where I've gained allyship for people to support me to make this a realized dream, you know, and then allowing me to say, well, do you know what? If I'm recognizing my unsung hero, why not allow other people to recognize their unsung hero? And that is where the creation of the MBCCs is come from. But saying all of that, doing the book first, you have to be true, and you've got to give recognition where recognition is, you know, deserved. And I can't just me, just talk about Zoe Bennett. No, I've got to talk about those people and how to make sure that you recognizing them and helping them move forward too, and supporting them in what they've done to help you as a pay it forward.
I think that's very, very important. So I think that, you know, being able to actually recognize how other people have helped you as well, and their place in your success is very important. And as you said as well, it's very important. I want to ask you about your book, Networking Personified. I want you to talk to me kind of about the inception behind that. Obviously, you've just kind of touched upon the importance of recognition, you know, and, you know, even in this episode today, throughout this episode, you've talked about the real key importance of celebrating the unsung heroes. So in terms of the book, I just kind of want to know about kind of what strategies or approaches do you employ to effectively communicate your, sorry, let me do that again. What strategies or approaches do you employ to effectively communicate your key USP while engaging in networking opportunities, really just to ensure that you make a long-lasting impression and create those meaningful connections?
So the USP is always about being true to yourself. You know, don't show up because you think it works for someone else. Let me show up like them. No, you've got to be your authentic self. And you've always got to ask yourself, what can I put into this as opposed to what can I get out of it? And it's very important that, you know, that you are not just going there just by saying, I want. You have to give something.
Exactly.
And another thing as well, so many people don't realize this is really easy, really free, is that smiling gets you a lot of things. You know, aura gets you a lot of things. How you show up gets you a lot of things. If you look like you're chewing a wasp, that is how people are going to receive you and then deal with you. If you, so for me, one thing I always do, and it's always been from the beginning of time, I'll refer people into other people who I've done due diligence on first and foremost. So it's actually not just it's one thing referring, but you've got to make sure you're referring the right person to meet the other person's needs, and it's not going to reflect on you badly. But I will always, when I feel after doing that due diligence and it's a nice fit, I will do the email introduction. And I'll do the full introduction and say, I think I need to take it from here, you know. Whereas a lot of people, they sell that. They, you know, they do referral fees, and that's one thing that I will not compromise on. And I just don't believe if you're building real relationships that there's going to be a caveat attached to that.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Zoe. Thank you very much. You know, I think in a lot of things there are caveats where people do attach things, you know, people do say things like, oh, I will share this for a price. And as you mentioned, a very good point, Zoe, that, you know, there's something about just giving back to the community, just helping people for nothing back, but you're building those long-lasting relationships and you're building your network and you're connecting with different people. But thank you, Zoe. That really ties into my next question about your background as being a TEDx speaker, and also, which we touched on through your wonderful book there, how you specialize in the personal development and the entrepreneurial mindset. So I've kind of talked about this a little bit in the former question about your book, but what key insights or strategies do you believe are crucial for people looking to really unlock their full potential and achieve success, especially in today's climate?
That's easy. You got to literally have a word with yourself. Literally have an honest, this is the key thing, have an honest word with yourself about where you want to get to. Everyone talks about what's your goal setting. However, you've got to be honest with yourself of where you're starting. What you're starting with. And if you are really honest about what you're starting with and what you're not starting with, then you can make that plan to bridge that gap and then start with a full grounded foundation. Because if you move forward, you don't have that foundation steady, at some point it's going to crumble.
Exactly, yes, exactly, Zoe. That's really important. And as you were speaking there, it reminded me of a parable in the Bible where there are some people who were building houses, and one person built their house on land and one person built their house on rock. And because the foundation of the latter person was stronger, when the winds came in, when the winds which represent the challenges in life came, he was able obviously to withstand that and continue. Whereas the former person was on shakier ground, they had to start again. And it really just embodies what you've just said in terms of the foundation that you put down in your life, in your business, in whatever you're trying to do is key. And I really want to talk about imposter syndrome, because I really feel like, a lot of people who I interact with are kind of talking about imposter syndrome and they're asking for advice. And I think it would be fitting to pose a question to you about imposter syndrome, and how, as a motivational speaker, as someone who is really on top of personal development and mindset, how you would help somebody with imposter syndrome. So what strategies or say mindset shifts would you actually kind of usher in or advise somebody to undertake in order to kind of overcome their imposter syndrome?
It's really funny because I deliver training on this.
Oh, wow.
so it's literally a topic that's really embedded. So you know that there's individuals like Michelle Obama, who's openly admitted that she's got imposter syndrome. Maya Angelou also admits, that she's got imposter syndrome. But the key thing, and I always say, this honesty thing is more powerful than what we realize.
Yeah.
Once you actually tell yourself, and you admit that you are dealing with it, could be imposter syndrome, it could be anything. As long as you admit it, can you only move forward?
Yeah.
If you're saying, oh no, I'll get over it, I'll put it back to the back of mine, I'll box it somewhere. It's always going to come out, isn't it?
Yeah.
All about admitting it and then saying, well, and also sharing with people. If you share with other people about your insecurities, they will then tell you and help you recognize of your greatness. And another, if you don't want to share with people, you need to write things down, and you need to diarize these things of your wins. You need to put your wins down. So when you have those intrusive moments of the imposter syndrome, all you need to do is just flip the book, turn it over and see how amazing you are, and actually give yourself examples. Like you do competency-based interviews or competence-based.
Yeah.
Tell me a time when you've done this. Tell me. Yeah. So tell yourself a time when you've done greatness, when you've achieved something, or when you've helped somebody, and write those different things down so then you can hear it back
and go back to that.
Alleviate that imposter syndrome.
Thank you, though. Very, very practical tips as well, to write things down from pen to paper. And when you can articulate yourself from pen to paper, and when you are struggling or in the midst of that challenge, you can always come back and have a look at your inner strength as well. Because sometimes, we, in our challenges, we can sometimes forget we can forget our successes. We can forget that actually, hang on, we have actually overcome this before. But as you said, we just need a reminder. And one of your favorite phrases, I love how you said, have a word with yourself, but let it be an honest word with yourself, because you can't fool yourself. All you have to do is be honest with yourself, set the good foundation, which will actually help you to move from overdraft to overflow, which is my dad's phrase, so I won't use that phrase without giving him the credit. So that's Gilbert Pommel, that's his phrase. So your expertise spans across various domains, from speaking engagements, as we've covered today, to champion community awards, which you gave the wonderful context of the MBCC awards. How do you effectively, I know people talk about a work-life balance. How do you balance these responsibilities? And how has this kind of multidimensional approach influenced your perspective on leadership and fostering inclusivity in both business and community development?
Wow, that's a big question.
Yes, we do try to throw a few in.
Let's just start with one part.
Yes. Let's break it down, segment it first.
Yeah.
We'll segment it first.
Balance. Let's get that you asked for. So the work-life balance is just knowing you can manage, and knowing exactly what it is, and knowing that you can give it your all.
Yeah.
So right now, so I've also got jewelry trademarks in UK, Europe, and USA. I've got organic gift sets. I've got lots of books and children's books with social issues. So there's a lot of different things. That's just a small start. Then I've got the partnership deal with NatWest Bank, and then I've got my employee contracts, with Training Personified Limited, again, my companies. Now, I wouldn't be doing all those things had I known that I can't facilitate them effectively. So you've got to understand what you can do, what you're going to give your all to, and if you can't, it's okay to park things. So many people think they have everything, and just because they see people like me doing a million things at once, that's my makeup is that way inclined. The way I am is that way inclined. And some people see that as stress and pressure. That is for me, that's what gives me life.
Yeah.
Is on the go, boom, boom, boom.
I love that as well. Yeah.
So I work very differently. So a lot of people say, "Oh gosh, you must be stressed." To me, it's not, But that's the things: understanding what you can do, what you're capable of doing, and only focus on the things you know that you can execute effectively. That's how you get your work-life balance. Bearing in mind, I'm a mum of 3, got a 28-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So, you've got to factor all that in. I've got a husband, and so it's not just business. And you've got to understand it's not just business. You've got other things that you have to give equal time to.
Yeah, you do.
So you can. And it's having those open conversations with those people closest to you, so they understand where you're at, and that's how you get that work-life balance. And bring them in where you can. I get my daughter exhibiting and selling, and she's only young. So yeah, that's work-life balance.
Excellent, Zoe. Thank you. Yeah, I was going to just say thank you for talking about the work-life balance, and then just briefly, really, can you talk to us about kind of how has this really kind of influenced your approach? But I'm going to change the question slightly, actually. How has this kind of influenced your approach on leadership as a whole?
Leadership as a whole, it's about understanding. Okay, you've got to understand what you're working with. 100%. You can't lead unless you know what you're leading. And you also have to know what your capabilities are, and your capacity, for that matter. You've got tenders. It's always about the RFQQ is the capability and capacity. Otherwise, they're not going to give it to you. It's the same, no different. You've got to track this and attack it. As if you're dealing with the bigger picture. So, for me, when the leadership is understanding the things that I am not so good at, how do I then get somebody who is better than me? Not equally, you've got to have someone better than you. And don't fear someone being better than you. You need to get over yourself, get out of your own ways, the 10x talk, as I did. You do have to get out of your own way and recognize excellence and reward excellence where excellence is, where it is. So for me, I will, for instance, have the best PA in the world. So I don't do any of that admin or anything at all for myself, because I see that someone is so much greater. And to be fair, without my PA, I would be literally floored. I would not even be able to do probably 2 things at a time, let alone I have 5 major things going on right now. In fact, going on 6, I also am the co-founder of the Building the Future Awards, Young People in Construction as well. So, and then I'm also doing a conference as well around that. So there's a lot.
There's a lot going on,
a lot I'm doing. Okay, it's okay.
Really works for you,
and you've got to just recognize, you've got to understand how people work, what they need. Their egos need stroking, and you've got to make it not about you, what your want is sometimes. Sometimes it's more about the people who you're leading and their wants. As long as it falls in line with the company,
with your ethos,
directly the company's going. If they just need more praises, then you've got to give it to them. If they want you to step back more, you have to be giving them, that autonomy to show them that you trust them.
And you can't micromanage as well.
That's it.
Thank you, Zoe. Very, very good today. Thank you for your appearance on the Faith Brynels Insights podcast. I just want to thank you first and foremost for giving your time to talk about your wonderful and inspirational journey. And I want to thank you to all of the listeners for coming back for season 6 and episode 3. I'm Faith Brynels, and we have here today a wonderful guest speaker, Zoe Bennett, BEM. We can't forget that because it really recognizes her wonderful achievements and contributions to the community. So all that's left to say, just one more question, Zoe. How can the listeners get in touch with you after the show?
You can contact me through my website, motivationalqueen.com, and the email is info@motivationalqueen.com.
Wonderful, everybody. Okay, everybody. So thank you once again for tuning in. You've heard it here, how to get in contact with Zoe. And today, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. As we always say, it's not an event, it's a journey. Your journey can begin now. And without further ado, this is your host, Faith Brynels, and I'm signing off. Bye-bye.